Let me ask you something. How can a man who's so smart, so disciplined, and so logical lose himself completely over one woman? How does a man who can read markets, build empires, and conquer obstacles suddenly forget everything he knows the moment emotion enters the room? It's not stupidity, it's humanity. Even the strongest minds can crumble under the weight of desire. The Stoics understood this long before modern men did. They knew that logic means nothing when emotion rules the heart. That's why Marcus Aurelius warned, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." He was reminding us, you can master the world, but if you can't master yourself in the presence of emotion, you're still a slave. This video isn't about bashing women, it's about understanding them, and more importantly, understanding yourself. Because the truth is, most smart men don't fail with women because they're weak. They fail because they forget who they are in the process. They overthink, overgive, over-explain. They trade respect for affection. They confuse attention for intimacy. They think logic can fix what emotion has broken, and that's the beginning of their downfall. A Stoic man knows better. He knows that emotions are like storms, beautiful but temporary, and if you try to fight the wind, you only get blown off course. But if you anchor yourself in calm, if you remain still when others are chaotic, you become untouchable. So today, we're going to talk about it, the 9 mistakes smart men make with women, the subtle emotional traps that even intelligent men fall into, and more importantly, how to rise above them with Stoic clarity, strength, and composure. If you're ready to understand women through the lens of self-mastery instead of self-sabotage, then make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to become a Stoic soldier. Now let's begin. One of the biggest mistakes smart men make with women is believing that logic can fix emotion. You try to reason with her feelings as if they're a problem to be solved, rather than an experience to be understood. You explain, you defend, you rationalize. You think if you just say the right thing, she'll see your side. But emotions don't work like equations. They flow like water, and the more you try to contain them, the more they overflow. This is where intellect betrays you, because intelligence teaches you to analyze, but wisdom teaches you to observe. The Stoics knew this well. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you argue with emotion, you're reacting, you're getting pulled into the storm. But when you stay calm, when you allow emotion to exist without letting it control you, you remain the master of yourself. A woman doesn't need you to solve her emotions. She needs to feel safe expressing them. When you stop trying to fix and start listening, you shift from being defensive to being grounded. You stop fighting the waves and start becoming the shore. That's what Stoic men do. They let emotion pass through them without attachment. They don't explain peace. They embody it. But most smart men make the mistake of trying to use logic to win emotional arguments. You say things like, "That doesn't make sense," or "You're overreacting." And the moment you do, you invalidate what she feels. And you lose her emotional trust, because feelings don't respond to reason, they respond to presence. Stoic power is not in proving your point, it's in mastering your state. The calmer you are when emotion rises, the more control you have over the situation. And ironically, the more she begins to trust your energy, because you've become something rare, a man who doesn't get swept away. So remember this: when emotion enters the room, silence is often the smartest thing you can say. Let her feel. Let the storm pass. Then move with calm strength. Because the man who can stay composed when emotion takes over is the man she'll never forget. Another mistake smart men make with women is this: they over-explain. They try to reason their way into understanding, to justify every action, every emotion, every decision. They believe that if they can just make her see their perspective, everything will make sense. But the truth is, the more you explain, the less power your words have. Over-explaining comes from fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing connection, fear of not being enough. You think you're being transparent, but what you're really doing is begging for validation. You're saying, "Please understand me," when you should be saying nothing at all. Because a Stoic man knows, not everyone deserves an explanation. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The same principle applies here. Stop trying to convince her who you are. Show it through your actions, your discipline, and your calm. A man who knows himself doesn't chase understanding. He moves in silence and lets time reveal his truth. When you over-explain, you turn strength into anxiety. You invite debate where none is needed. You open the door for manipulation because you've shown that your peace depends on her approval. But the Stoic man doesn't need approval. He needs alignment. He knows that if someone truly values him, they won't need a presentation to see his worth. Women don't respect endless justification. They respect emotional control. They respect a man who can walk away rather than argue endlessly. A man who can say, "I've said what I needed to say," and then remain silent while the world reacts. That kind of composure unsettles chaos. Because silence, when grounded in confidence, is louder than explanation ever could be. So the next time you feel that urge to defend yourself, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, am I explaining to create peace, or am I explaining to ease my insecurity? If it's the latter, stop. Let your calm become the answer. Because when you no longer need to be understood, you become the kind of man the world finally begins to understand. One of the most dangerous mistakes smart men make with women is chasing validation instead of respect. You tell yourself you just want her attention, her time, her affection. But what you're really seeking is permission to feel worthy. You want her to confirm that you matter, and the moment you hand that power over to her, you lose your center. This is how most men, strong, intelligent, capable men, end up feeling powerless. They build their peace around how she feels about them. If she's happy, they're at peace. If she's distant, they're anxious. If she pulls away, their world collapses. That's not love, that's dependency. And dependency is the opposite of Stoic strength. The Stoics taught that no external thing should have power over your inner world. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When you seek validation, you've already surrendered that power. You've made your peace conditional on her approval. But respect is different. Respect is earned through restraint, through composure, through knowing your value whether or not someone else recognizes it. A woman might be drawn to your charm, your humor, your looks, but she respects your self-control. She respects the man who doesn't fold under pressure, the man who doesn't chase after rejection, who doesn't need attention to prove his worth. When you stop trying to impress, you start to express something real, confidence rooted in self-awareness. Chasing validation is what weak men do because they fear rejection. Stoic men don't fear rejection. They accept it as truth. They understand that not everyone will see their value, and that's okay, because their peace doesn't depend on who stays, it depends on who they are. The moment you stop craving validation, you become free. Free to walk away when you're disrespected. Free to love without losing yourself. Free to be silent when others demand a reaction, because your respect for yourself becomes the foundation for how the world treats you. So remember, validation fades the moment she gives it, but respect lasts long after you leave the room. Seek that instead, because the man who values respect over approval never chases again. He simply attracts what mirrors his peace. One of the most common traps smart men fall into is confusing interest with investment. She flirts a little, texts you back, laughs at your jokes, gives you just enough attention to stay curious, and your mind starts building castles in the sky. You think it means something deep, something real. But the Stoic man knows interest is free. Investment costs time, consistency, and effort. Attention doesn't equal intention. A woman's interest can be momentary, a reflection of her mood, her curiosity, or her boredom. But investment is what happens when her actions align with her words over time. Most men never learn this distinction, so they pour themselves into potential instead of reality. They chase the version of her they hope exists, instead of seeing the one right in front of them. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And that's exactly what happens here. You start imagining a future that doesn't exist. You fill in emotional gaps with fantasy. You mistake her curiosity for connection, her attention for affection, and suddenly you're invested in something that was never mutual. The Stoic doesn't fall for that illusion. He observes. He watches patterns, not promises. He pays attention to effort, not energy. Because he understands that consistency is the language of genuine interest. You don't need someone who occasionally shows up when it's convenient. You need someone whose presence doesn't depend on the weather of their emotions. When you learn this, you stop chasing maybes. You stop rewarding crumbs of attention with full meals of effort. You stop begging for investment and start requiring it. That's not arrogance. It's awareness. It's knowing your value and refusing to negotiate it. A Stoic man gives energy where energy returns. He doesn't punish or withdraw to manipulate. He simply observes the balance. Because when you learn to value yourself enough to stop confusing interest with investment, you attract people who no longer need convincing. They match your effort. So remember this: don't fall for sparks that fade in seconds. Wait for the flame that stays when the excitement dies down. Because love isn't proven in words, it's proven in what remains. Another mistake smart men make with women is ignoring their own boundaries in the name of keeping the peace. You tell yourself you're being patient, understanding, mature, but deep down, you're avoiding conflict because you fear losing her. You let small things slide. You stay quiet when something feels off. You accept disrespect disguised as just how she is. And every time you do, you trade a piece of your peace for temporary comfort. But the truth is, when you sacrifice boundaries to keep someone, you don't keep them. You lose yourself. And once you start betraying your own principles, everything else begins to crumble. Because love without boundaries isn't love, it's submission. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." And being one means standing firm, even when it's uncomfortable. It means saying no when your peace is on the line. It means walking away from disrespect the first time, not the 10th. The Stoic man knows that boundaries don't push people away. They filter the right ones in. A woman might test your limits to see what kind of man you really are. And when you stand your ground calmly, not angrily, you show her that your peace is not negotiable. That's when she starts to respect you. Too many men confuse peace with passivity. They think silence keeps the relationship stable. But silence without strength is just fear dressed as calm. True peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the presence of order. So stop breaking your own rules to keep someone who breaks them for you. Stop saying it's fine when it's not. Stop allowing chaos to live rent-free in your life. The Stoic doesn't argue or beg. He decides. He moves with quiet certainty. He knows that his boundaries are a reflection of his self-respect. And here's the paradox. When you finally stop ignoring your boundaries, you stop losing yourself, and people start treating you the way you should have been treated all along. Because peace that costs your self-worth isn't peace, it's self-betrayal. Another mistake smart men make with women is mistaking attention for affection. You think the texts, the compliments, the laughter, the little signs of interest mean something deeper, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes attention is just energy, not emotion. It's curiosity, not connection. And that's where most men lose their grip on reality. Attention is easy. It's free. Anyone can give it when they're bored, when they're lonely, or when they want validation of their own. But affection, that's rare. That's when care turns into consistency, when effort turns into effort returned, when interest survives silence. The problem is, most men fall in love with potential before they ever see proof. Seneca said, "He suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary." And that's exactly what happens when you start building feelings on attention. You begin suffering over something that was never real to begin with. You create emotional stories in your head that reality was never written to match. The Stoic man doesn't get fooled by flattery. He doesn't mistake warmth for depth. He doesn't confuse desire for devotion. Because he understands that attention can be temporary, but affection reveals itself through time. He doesn't rush to attach. He observes. He lets people show who they are without needing to imagine who they could be. Smart men fall because they see what they want to see instead of what's in front of them. Stoic men rise because they wait, they watch, and they listen. They don't chase energy. They evaluate consistency. They don't melt under charm. They measure intention. The truth is, attention feels good, but affection feels safe. And a Stoic man knows the difference. He knows that love without peace isn't worth having. So he doesn't chase attention. He attracts genuine affection through presence, calm, and authenticity. Because the man who no longer mistakes noise for care finally knows the sound of peace. One of the most painful mistakes smart men make with women is expecting them to think like men. You assume logic should lead every conversation, that emotion should follow reason. But love doesn't work like math. It moves like music. And if you try to analyze every note, you'll never feel the rhythm. This is where most intelligent men get lost. You try to fix emotion with logic. You try to win arguments with evidence. You believe that because something makes sense to you, it should make sense to her. But emotion and logic are not enemies. They're opposites working in harmony. And the moment you try to make her feel the way you think, you create a disconnect. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You should leave another's mistake where it lies." The Stoic man understands that trying to change how someone feels is like shouting at the wind. It's not your job to control emotion. It's your job to remain calm within it, to meet emotion with empathy, not ego. Women are emotional beings by nature, not irrational, just expressive. Their world is colored by feelings, while yours may be shaped by logic. That difference isn't a flaw, it's polarity. It's what creates attraction and balance. But when you expect her to process like you strip that polarity away. You turn passion into conflict. The Stoic man doesn't force understanding, he listens. He doesn't need to prove that he's right. He seeks to remain centered. When she's emotional, he doesn't fight it. He allows it. He lets the storm pass. And when it does, his presence becomes her calm. That's how a man earns trust, not by being louder, but by being stiller. Smart men get frustrated because they believe clarity ends conflict. But in relationships, calm ends conflict. The Stoic knows that mastery isn't about control, it's about awareness. You don't need to make her think like you. You need to keep your peace while she feels like her. Because the moment you stop demanding sameness, you begin to understand harmony. And the man who can balance logic with empathy doesn't lose his power. he multiplies it. Another mistake smart men make with women is being too available. You think showing constant care proves loyalty. You think always being there makes you dependable. But there's a difference between being consistent and being convenient. When you're always available, you stop being valuable. It's human nature. We take for granted what we can reach any time. And when you make yourself too easy to reach, too quick to respond, too willing to drop everything, you lose the very energy that made you attractive in the first place. Mystery dies, presence turns to predictability, and respect slowly fades into routine. The Stoics understood the balance between generosity and restraint. Epictetus said, "If you wish to be loved, love modestly." In other words, don't flood someone with your attention. Give space. Let absence do what words cannot. Make your presence meaningful again. Because space isn't distance, it's gravity. Most smart men overextend themselves because they fear being forgotten. But the Stoic man knows, if she forgets you the moment you pull back, she never truly valued you to begin with. Your worth isn't proven by how often you show up. It's proven by the energy you carry when you do. Availability without boundaries breeds imbalance. You become predictable, and predictability kills polarity. A woman doesn't want a man who's always waiting. She wants a man who's building, a man whose focus is his mission, his peace, his purpose. The more centered you are in your life, the more your energy commands respect without asking for it. So stop dropping your priorities for attention. Stop responding instantly to prove interest. Stop overexposing your energy to those who haven't earned it. Because availability should be a privilege, not a habit. When you master that balance, something changes. You become calm, unhurried, purposeful. And that calm draws people toward you. Not because you're chasing them, but because your silence carries weight. The Stoic man isn't absent, he's selective. He gives time, not out of need, but out of intention. And that's what separates the man who's wanted for his presence from the one who's used for his attention. The final and most destructive mistake smart men make with women is losing their purpose inside the relationship. You start strong, focused, disciplined, clear about who you are, but slowly, piece by piece, you begin to revolve your life around her instead of your mission. And when a man forgets his mission, everything begins to fall apart. At first, it feels romantic, putting her first, making her your world. But soon, you start to lose yourself. Your goals fade, your edge dulls. You stop doing the things that once made you magnetic, and you replace them with comfort. But comfort, when it comes from neglecting purpose, always ends in chaos. The Stoics understood that love should complement your purpose, not consume it. Marcus Aurelius said, "A man's worth is measured by the things he pursues." And when you stop pursuing your vision, you shrink into something smaller, reactive, dependent, lost. That's when relationships start to crumble, not because love died, but because direction did. Women are drawn to men who are becoming, not men who have stopped. She doesn't need you to make her your purpose. She needs to feel that she's walking beside a man who has one. Because purpose is stability. It's what anchors you when emotions rise. It's what gives your silence weight, your boundaries meaning, and your presence depth. When you lose purpose, you lose polarity. You start overcompensating with effort. You chase, you explain, you overgive. Not because you love her too much, but because you've forgotten what you're living for beyond her. The Stoic man never lets that happen. He keeps his peace guarded and his direction sacred. Your purpose is what gives life structure. It's your North Star. The moment you abandon it to chase emotional security, you lose both, her respect and your power. because a man without purpose can't lead himself, let alone a relationship. So remember this: love her deeply, but never more than your mission. Give her time, but never at the cost of your discipline. Let her into your life, but never let her become the reason you live it. Because when your mission stays first, everything else falls into place. You become grounded, calm, focused. You stop chasing happiness and start creating it. You stop clinging to love and start embodying it. And that's when you transform from a man who needs peace into a man who is peace. At some point, you realize it was never about her. It was about you. The lessons, the heartbreaks, the confusion, all of it was the universe's way of handing you a mirror. Every mistake you made with women wasn't failure. It was feedback. It showed you where you lost control, where you forgot your worth, where you placed someone else above your mission. The Stoics would tell you none of this was wasted, because pain, when faced with discipline, becomes wisdom. You've now seen what happens when emotion replaces logic, when chasing replaces presence, when attachment replaces purpose. You've learned that love doesn't require you to lose yourself. It requires you to remember yourself. A Stoic man loves deeply but never desperately. He gives freely but never foolishly. He listens, but he never betrays his own voice. He walks away when peace costs too much, and he returns to stillness when the world turns loud. Because he knows control is not about power over others, it's about mastery over self. So if you've fallen, rise with calm. If you've lost, learn with grace. If you've been misunderstood, remain unmoved. Because every man who's walked through heartbreak and silence and still stands tall has already won. Now take these lessons, brother, and live them. Speak less, move with purpose, lead with peace, and remember, your discipline is your freedom. Your silence is your strength. Your purpose is your anchor. Thank you for watching. If this message spoke to you, if you're ready to live with composure, clarity, and quiet strength, then make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to become a Stoic soldier. This is Stoic Blessing -- where emotion becomes wisdom, where heartbreak becomes power, and where peace becomes your weapon. Until next time, stay calm, stay grounded, and walk with honor.